tearing up my floors, man. You know how I love giving away spoilers,
You
right?
do tend to give away spoilers, but a good job of not giving away any on this
I
one,
didn't
because
want to this time because there's actually a number of spoilers. There's so many spoilers we could give in this one.
as a child, I would have loved this place, exploring in here and seeing if I could find a gold and this is great.
Trespass, 1992. It's starring Bill Paxton and my favorite, William Sadler. I'm a really big fan of William Sadler, and it's got Ice-T and Ice Cube. And I had never heard of this before. Have you ever heard of
Me
this before in your life?
Never heard of it either. Hey, do you think like when Ice-T and Ice Cube are having a conversation, do they refer to each other as Ice? Or do they refer to each other by like T and Q? So it's like, yo, Ice, what up, Ice? Not much, Ice. How you doing, my Ice? Or
Could
versus, yo, T, what up? What up, Cube? Hey, T, how's it hanging?
Well, because I don't think it would be just T, because then if you wanted to be formal, he'd be Mr. T, and he's
Mm.
not Mr. T, he's Ice-T, right? So it wouldn't work that way. Yeah, this is a good movie. I'd never heard of this movie before. And I think the reason why it possibly is they had to do a whole rebranding and remarketing effort on this film because it was originally called The Looters. And they were going to release it, but then a little something called the LA riots happened, and it was known for having a lot of looting. So the whole looters thing was kind of sensitive. So they had to change all the posters, all the marketing. Ice-T and Ice Cube even had a rap song together called The Looters that they couldn't use. So this is a bad circumstances for that movie, right? Because they had to rebrand and they had to reshuffle, and maybe that's why we didn't really hear about it. Is maybe it just got lost in all that weirdness.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, it's hard to know with films like this because none of them. I mean, Bill Paxton is great, but he's not really your leading man. You know, you don't. Not a lot of people go to see Bill Paxton movies, and Ice is like they weren't huge in the acting world then. I mean, in the early '90s, they were all about the music. You know.
Yeah, well, and William Sadler's the same way. He's
Yeah.
rarely kind of a leading man. He's usually some kind of villain, like in Die Hard 2, or he's maybe even kind of darkly comedic, like he was the Grim Reaper in Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. He was the Grim Reaper also in um an episode of the Tales from the Crypt,
Oh,
of which the director Walter Hill was an executive producer for that.
yes, he likes playing the Reaper. Speaking of, so yeah, it was directed by Walter Hill, but did you notice who wrote it? The two
Yeah,
Bobs.
yeah. Tell us who wrote it.
Yeah, Bob Zemeckis and Bob Gale, who
Yeah,
happened to make another film called Back to the Future.
yeah. They wrote this before, like so. This is kind of an older playwright or screenwrite, right?
Yeah,
But
it
they,
was from the
yeah,
70s, right? Like, didn't they
yeah.
originally? Yeah.
Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale, who did Back to the Future, wrote this movie. So the film is about these firemen. They go to a burning building, and there's this old man, and he's like freaking out, and he's praying for forgiveness, and he gives them a map, and then he goes and like sets himself on fire out of guilt or whatever. So it turns out he stole a whole bunch of like gold from the church and hid it in some kind of abandoned factory in St. Louis. So they're like, these two guys, Bill Paxton and William Sadler, are gonna go find it. But they happen to go there, and there's a homeless guy living there. So they're like, oh crap, we gotta tie this guy up and deal with him. But then a gang comes, Ice-T and Ice Cube and the whole gang comes, and stuff starts to go awry because they're like, hey, what are you doing here? Because it's their turf. But then they like kidnap the guy's brother, they hold him hostage, and then this happens, and then that happens, and they find the gold, they find it there, and all this stuff goes down. So it's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy stuff. That's kind of the gist of it.
Yeah, it's kind of like an old school action flick. I mean, I guess that's was his intent with this, which it kind of works, right? Like he, from a filmmaking standpoint, I noticed he used some Dutch angles at unique points, and I'm like, oh, that's cool, and it works. And then reading through it, also he did stuff with the camera movement and stuff, so as the film starts off it's more stable and on a tripod, and then as it moves on it gets more hectic, it moves to the handheld look, which nowadays every action film is handheld for every shot, extreme close-up for every shot. You
Mhm.
know, rarely they'll step outside of that and do a stable shot and a wide shot, but like with this, the cinematographer used it correctly because he actually went into this nice stable, and then as things got crazier and crazier, the camera work got crazier and crazier to go along with it, which
Mhm.
is the way films should be made, which was really nice to see, obviously, because it was from the early 90s.
Yeah, I think he did a good job with that. Definitely. And did you notice there were a lot of scenes that were like through a viewfinder
Yeah, the
of
camera
a
thing as
camera with the
well.
record thing? And he did that because he was reading about gangs, and a lot of these gangs would actually record their activities. And so he kind of rolled with that and made it look like they were kind of recording their activities like 90s gang style or whatever, which I thought the viewfinder thing is kind of interesting.
Yeah, it was a nice effect. It wasn't overdone in the film as well. Like I like the way it started off with it, so it established that it was going to be used, but then it went away from it and then brought it back at a few points throughout. So it was nice kind of break in regards to the look of the film and how they integrated it as well, which was kind of a nice little thing. Um, yeah, so that I think cinematography wise, this film did, and just the look in general, the fact that it was all filmed basically in this one location in this old abandoned, was it a distillery, old abandoned distillery, which is now apparently luxury apartments or something like that.
Yeah, that's the former location of the Tennessee Brewery in Memphis. So even though it's supposed to take place in East St. Louis, that the location is actually in Memphis.
I would love, like at one point, he's talking about as they're like strolling into the place for the first time. He's like, as a child, I would have loved this place, exploring in here and seeing if I could find a gold and this is great. As a child, and I'm like, man, as an adult, I would love exploring a place like that. I don't know what you're talking about. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah, yeah. So they go into the building and they start tearing up the floors. And the homeless guy, he's all tied up, but he's pissed. He's like, "What do you do to my floors?
Yeah,
You're tearing up my floors, man.
man, I live here. What are you doing? Can't do that.
This is my beautiful floors. Those are vintage, dude."
Yeah. I don't get the impression that they had a huge budget with this film either, but they did a good job with.
It doesn't seem like they had a huge budget. According to what I was reading, it is, but the budget was $14 million, and it only made that maybe that much back. It maybe broke even.
Yeah, not a profitable movie, but like you said, it was released shortly after the riots. So even with the changing in name and all that kind of stuff, probably might have been a bad time to release a movie, or maybe
Yeah, and
something.
like you say, like Bill Paxton, William Sadler, I love those guys, but they're not typically leading men. And then, you had Ice-T and um
Ice
Ice
Cube.
Cube, and they were kind of in movies and stuff, but they weren't like big time movie stars.
Yeah.
But I thought they were pretty good. I guess the director, Walter Hill, kind of let them go do their, because they're like, he was like, "You're kind of gangster anyway, right?" They're like, "Yeah, we're kind of gangster. Like that's how we roll because we're famous now, but we're kind of from the hood." And so he let them kind of just talk how they want to talk, um,
Which was
which is
smart.
cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, you got Robert Zemeckis, Bob Gale, and him as the director. None of those three guys are from the hood, right? So they're not gonna they're not gonna know how to like actually speak the lingo and the slang and that kind of stuff. So it makes sense that they'd be like, look, you guys, I trust that you're going to be able to like say this using the right slang and dialogue and stuff like that. So run with it. Smart move.
That's probably a good call, right? That's kind of
Mhm.
like if you and I like went to the hood. I mean, we grew up on our own hood, but it's more of a
It's a white man's
Caucasian
hood. It's very
American.
different. Yeah.
It's a lot of maybe trailer parks and stuff, but it's
Yeah.
not like it's a different kind of hood. So I think it would, yeah, we could approximate it, but we wouldn't really know how to
No.
talk the lingo. So it's good just to let Ice-T and Ice Cube talk how they want to talk in this case. I think that's a good call, and it made them cool. I mean, I'm always been convinced that they were gangsta, probably because they all kind of are. Um, they look pretty gangsta, and they look kind of intimidating, and I dig it.
Yeah. Yeah. I wouldn't mess with them.
No, I wouldn't mess with them. In fact,
Yeah.
I just give them the golden bolt, man. I'd be like, "Oh, okay,
Yeah.
you can't enjoy gold if you're not around." So
Would you though? Because I kind of think so too. I think what they were saying is, look, if we give them the gold, they're going to kill us anyways.
maybe.
So
Well, but they didn't even know that about the gold to begin with. They were just there. So the whole deal, why they want to capture them to begin with, is they witnessed, like, they went there to do an execution. So they were being all gang execution stuff, and they witnessed it. So they want to get those guys so they can take them out because they witnessed an execution. But then stuff goes crazy, and they didn't even know about the gold. So that's what's up with this movie, is all this stuff I like. And like you said, the film style is the same in that um it starts to um it starts to get jerkier and stranger because things start to get snowball, and they start to go out of control, and what started out as something becomes something bigger, and starts out as gold, then kidnapping the homeless dude, and then it's like kidnapping one of the gangster's brother, and after witnessing a murder, and it starts to snowball into this stuff, and it's like, when is this going to end, and how's this going to end?
yeah. Well, and like if you're in that scenario, you get a bit of gold fever going on, and you're like, okay, we've gone through all of this. I don't want to give up the gold now. I mean, of what we've all been through so far, we got to get the gold, right? Like, because if we leave this scenario, so I can kind of see his point of view when he's like, don't flag the cops or anything like that, because it's like, dude, if the cops show up, we get nothing, and we went through all of this for absolutely nothing. So let's
Well,
just,
yeah, but that's also what made the gangsters suspicious,
yeah. Then
because
they
they're
figure
like,
they're like,
hey,
wait
these
a
guys
minute,
had a chance to get the cops here, and they don't. So what are they, what kind of shady business are they doing? I thought we were the gangsters here. This is
yeah,
our hood. What's going on?
yeah.
Yeah,
It,
we're sus, as my son says. Yeah, we're getting sus.
Sussed. Yeah. Yeah.
We're sus.
Those boys are up to something in there if they didn't flag down
Yeah,
the
those white
cops.
boys are up to
What are they up
something.
to? I liked the falls as well. There were a couple falls, like the one through the glass, and then there was another one where the dude fell on the wires and stuff like that. Like very, very believably done in the sense of like the way they were shot, with the person probably landing on a soft thing and then probably cutting to a dummy and stuff. But the dummy didn't full on look like a dummy like it does sometimes, where it's just like, oh look, they just threw a dummy over the top of the building. This one, they actually did a good job.
Yeah, this also starred Tom Lister Jr., who was with Ice Cube in Friday,
Mm.
by the way. And I always liked him because he's just a big, scary looking guy, right? And he's got that kind of eye thing going on, and he's gigantic. I always liked him because I remember him from like No Holds Barred as Zeus fighting Hulk Hogan. He's always this big, intimidating character. I always like Tom Lister Jr. So I think the cast was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was definitely well cast and stuff like that.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, this came out like at the same time as the riots, and that might have been another reason why people didn't really dig it, because it really was it wasn't necessarily like a black versus white thing. It just happened to be some white firefighters looking for gold, and the black gang shows up. But there's often maybe some, I'm not gonna let the white boy kill me, and this kind of like that kind of tension, the racial tension, which I think may have worked better if not for the fact that, like, one of the worst riots in history happened because of that.
Yeah.
Maybe people just were tired of that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It did definitely have some of that undertone of like, white guys never come to this neighborhood. This is my neighborhood kind of thing. And so
Uh,
obviously you're here for something, or else you wouldn't be here. But they didn't do a whole lot with it, which was kind of nice. Exactly. It was really about like these two groups being in the wrong places, the wrong time, seeing the wrong stuff, finding out the wrong things, and just kind of, like you said, snowballing into situations that they then just could not get themselves out of.
yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah. And even Walter Hill said it wasn't meant to be kind of a political thing at all. It just happened that it wasn't intentionally political. It just happened that like a lot of those racial tensions really flared up at the same time this movie came out, right?
Yeah, so it got missed. Well, now it's not going to get missed because it's on our channel and people watch this channel and they'll be like, oh, if these guys watch this movie, I need to check it out.
Yeah, and so I'll give it a thumbs up. And I will say people should check it out because it's actually a pretty good movie. It's an action thriller that's egregiously overlooked, very unfairly overlooked. I feel guilty and sad that I'd never seen this movie and that I didn't even know about it. So everybody involved making this movie, I'm sorry about that, but we're trying to rectify that by saying I think people should check this movie out. It's a fun action thriller, and it's definitely worth just kind of like a Friday night watch, in my opinion.
I'm with you 100% on this one. No disagreements. It stands the test of time. You can still watch it today. Since there's no crazy CGI'd special effects in it. You believe
Mm-hmm.
everything that's happening. The fire's believable. Like I said, the falls and the action sequences are all believable. The performances are good. And yeah, it works. I totally enjoyed this film 100%.
Yeah, I suggest people check it out. It's all filmed in the same kind of rundown factory place, and I like how it snowballs into weirdness. And we're not going to give away any spoilers because there's just so much that happens that we I don't want to give away. You know how I love giving away spoilers,
You
right?
do tend to give away spoilers, but a good job of not giving away any on this
I
one
didn't
because
want to
it
this time because there's actually a number of spoilers. There's so many
yeah,
spoilers you could give in this one, but I
yeah,
want to. You know why? I want people to watch this. Actually, I want people to
absolutely.
watch this. I don't know exactly where to get it, well, legally, but you can
What do you
rent
talk
it.
about? Somebody threw like a low quality version of it up on YouTube. I don't know if it's still up. I found it there, but it's like 480p video quality, so it's all kind of blurry and
Don't watch it
crappy.
that way. Do it justice.
Yeah, I actually pay
Just
to
rent
rent
it
it.
on Vudu or Amazon Prime for
Yeah,
like $3. It'll be worth it.
it's
Do
like
it.
going to the video store. It's totally a video store.
It's a video store kind
If
of
it was the
movie. In fact, I
90s
think
and I
that's
was in the
where it made
videos,
most of its money.
absolutely. If it
Yeah.
was the 90s and I was in a video store and I saw this, grabbed it, it'd be worth paying the $3 I would have paid to rent it at the video store in the 90s.
Yeah. So rent if you can't find this movie on your streaming, whatever you're streaming, just rent it and pretend like it's 1992 and you rented it for $3 and watch it with some popcorn. Maybe, put on some, parachute pants or something, MC Hammer in the background. Just watch the movie. Just do it.
Word.
Enough said. Word up, dog.